Yo YouTube, what's going on? Today we are here with a Void Warlock build that is absolutely insane in Season of the Deep. Now, usually I would tell every Warlock to throw on Controverse holds and go about your business. Today, we're throwing those aside and we are going to throw on the Nezarec Sin exotic helmet. Now, this has the armor perk, Abyssal Extractors. Void damage kills increase ability recharge rate. Now, how this works is Void kills grant Abyssal Extracts. So, Void weapon kills, so we're going to make sure we have those on. Basically how it works is Void kills, they grant Abyssal Extractors for 2.5 seconds and it maxes out at 20 seconds. While the Abyssal Extractors is active, you will get a 300% additional base grenade and melee regeneration and a 200% additional class and super regeneration rate, which is absolutely insane and is going to feed into our subclass build and into our artifact mods, making this build better than ever this season. We're gonna just touch on some Void weapons real fast. I've been using the corrected measure. It's absolutely amazing. It's got Demolitionist on it on mine, and anything with demo and that's Void is really good because it all feeds back into Nezarec Sin Void kills. Hollow Denial trace rifles are absolutely dominant right now, especially in the double special meta that we've got going on. You can also look at something like Doom Chelchis, especially with Overload being scout rifles, and same with the Overload trace rifle. And if you're just doing something more casual, Funnel Web, Unforgiven, things like that, okay? So that covers some weapons, but use whatever you're comfortable with, as long as it's Void. So we're going to hop over into the subclass setup to start with. I start off with the Nova Bomb Cataclysm. Honestly, it tracks things. Let's be honest, we all whiff our supers, and this tracks. Yes, don't get me wrong, this super has the tendency to fly off into the Never Never Land. Do your best, Warlocks, okay? Then, I'm going to suggest the Vortex Grenade. And the Vortex Grenade is generally the most powerful Void Grenade on the Void subclass right now, in my opinion. And it pairs very well with that first aspect, Chaos Accelerant. What Chaos Accelerant does is you can hold your grenade button, which will overcharge your grenade, making it deadlier and more effective. Now, how this Vortex Grenade benefits from this is it increases the size and the linger duration of the Vortex Grenade itself, which is really good. Then, we would usually use the aspect Feed the Void, so that Void abilities give us Devour. Now, we don't need this season because since the orb changes and how it's such an orb meta now, we just don't need it. So we're taking this off and we're replacing it with Child of the Old Gods. And Child of the Old Gods, basically when you cast your Wraith, you get a Void Soul. When you damage a target with your weapons, your Void Soul flies out to the enemy and weakens them and damages them at the same time. Now, this is a 15% weaken, which is really powerful, so you've always got a weaken effect on a target. This is going to pair well with running the Healing Rift as well, and the reason why is when a target is being drained, you are granted grenade and melee energy if you're running the Healing Rift. Before, these two aspects would have given us 3 fragments. But this season, especially with the ability tuning that they did this season, we now get 4 fragments, and this is why the build is insane. So, because we don't have Feed the Void, we were going to start off with the first fragment, Echo of Starvation. Picking up a Void Breach or an Overpower grants Devour. So that's our source of getting Devour now. We're also going to be able to benefit from Void Breaches, which you'll learn about more later on when we get to the artifact mods. The next one is going to be Echo of Stability. Defeating targets with the grenades grant volatile rounds to our Void weapons. Now, because we're using Void weapons, we're using Void abilities, it's all going to be feeding into Nezarec Sin, getting our abilities back really fast. We are going to be able to throw lots of grenades, giving our Void weapons volatile rounds all the time, which volatile is technically a debuff as well. So keep that in mind for later on. Next, we're going to use Echo of Persistence, and basically Void buffs such as Invisibility, Overshield, and Devour all have an increased duration. Now, what this means is Overshield gets an increased duration, Devour also goes up to 15 seconds and is extendable on kills as well. Don't forget about that. Now, we also are going to benefit from Overshields this season because, as I say again, because of the artifact mods, which we'll get to here soon. I then close out this build on the subclass with Echo of Remnants, and basically all this does is lingering effects of grenades such as Vortex Grenade. They have an increased duration, so extra damage off them grenades basically. That closes out the subclass setup. So the next part we're going to move on to is, because I'm sure you're all waiting for, is the artifact mods. Which ones should you pick for this build? Now, obviously you want the Void ones. Authorized mods Void. Any armor mods affecting Void weapons are significantly discounted, so things like Void Loaders, Surges, Siphons, things like that, they're all going to cost a lot less to put on your armor. So this is a huge one to have this season. Next is Unto the Breach. Defeating a Void debuff target creates a Void Breach when your Void subclass is equipped. Obviously we're running Void. As you said earlier, we're using Child of the Old Gods, which weakens targets. We're using Echo of Instability Fragment, which gives us volatile rounds off grenade kills. all these debuffs, whenever we get a kill, is going to create a void breach. This is then going to feed into the next artifact mod, Protected Breach, because picking up those void breaches, not only does it give us Devour, yeah, from our Fragment Echo of Starvation, we are going to also get an overshield or refresh an existing overshield that we already have. We're going to close this out with the mod Supernova. Picking up a void breach causes our next source of void damage, which is weapons, grenades, melee. Is going to send out a large weakening pulse, which weakens enemies around that area. You then can look at also running Conductive Cosmic Needle. Targets affected by strand debuffs take increased damage from arc and void abilities. We're using void abilities. You can also look at running Squad Goals. Squad Goals, if you perform a finisher, you can grant Devour to your nearby allies while you have Devour and you have the Void subclass equipped. So 2 great mods there as well. They're the artifaction mods you want to use, and it's absolutely insane. And I'll show you how it all works here in the play loop here in a minute. But we're going to go over the mods that we're going to want to put on our armor first. For the helmet, guys, you want to make sure that you run an Ashes to Ashes. Now, an Ashes to Ashes basically just give you super energy on grenade kills. Now, you can run more than one of these if you'd like, but it's diminishing returns, and honestly, you only need one of them, and you'll notice. Trust me, you get so much super energy from Ashes to Ashes, you only need one. So I only run one here, and then we're running a Void Siphon, which is only costing 1, as you can see this season, because of the authorized mods Void, and then we get Void Final Blows, Create and Overpower, which is a source of our Devour, etc. That closes out the helmet. Moving on to the arms, I run a Firepower mod. All these grenades we're going to be throwing, they're going to create orbs of power for us. Then we're going to use Bolstering Detonation for these grenades as well, which is going to feed into our class ability. Doing damage with the grenade grants class ability energy. I then close it off with a Void Loader to just reload these void weapons that we're going to be constantly using in this play loop. On the chest piece, it's just not as important now. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm running a charged up here and then resist mods. Now, if I'm doing casual content, I'll just run 2 charged up, so I've just have infinite armor charges, honestly. If we're not running charged up and we're doing something a little bit harder, I'll put the relative resist mods on that are needed. Moving on to the boots. Now, the boots can be changed around depending on what you are doing. General content, anything that doesn't have a surge towards the activity, I am running 3 void weapon surges. Now, these only cost 1 because of the seasonal artifact mod, so you get a 22% damage bonus to your void weapons that you are constantly using. I personally love using this. I love being able to do this. And the reason why we're not running something such as Recuperation or better already is when picking up an orb or a void breach, we get Devour. So we get our health back anyway. So there's just no need for those 2. But let's say you're doing an activity that is GM Nightfall or a Master Raid or a Master Dungeon, whatever it may be, and it's got a surge attached to it. And let's say that the surge is a Void Surge. That gives you 25% increased damage to Void in that activity. And it also cancels out the 3 Void Surges you have on your boost. So all you do is you just replace these with stuff like Innovation, Invigoration, Insulation, or Absolution. So that basically covers both avenues of what activity you're going to be doing basically, and you can make the choice on which one you want to do. Okay, moving on to the class item, I played around with this because I've been trying to use Powerful Attraction. I tried using Reaper. Don't get me wrong, they both work really well. Honestly, I got much more out of running Double Bomber and a Distribution. Double Bomber when casting your class ability, which you're always going to have up, and you're going to be spamming that Void Soul from the Child of the Old Gods aspect, getting your grenade back from Bomber. Then with Distribution, it's also going to cool down all your abilities from having Distribution, and it just feeds into those, all of it, everything that you're doing, no matter what you're doing, whether it be shooting your gun at an enemy, throwing your grenade, melee, super, using your Rift to get the Void Soul out of Child of the Old Gods. It's all going to feed back into Nezarec Sin and give you abyssal extractors to keep feeding into your abilities. So let's go explain the play loop on how we do it, and then we'll show you how fast the abilities come back and things like that. Okay, to start off this play loop, guys, you're going to want to make sure you charge that grenade and get it thrown into a group of enemies. That's going to get that first grenade kill proc in abyssal extractors, giving you a volatile rounds and giving you an orb to proc Devour. Then make sure you get that Rift down. It gives you Child of the Old Gods to debuff a target. As you can see, we just melted that guy. Void Breach from it too. Overshield, reprocs Devour if we need to. Okay, then we get, it all feeds back into our abilities. We got our grenade and Rift back, we drop them again, gives us more ability energy back, all while using our void weapons and void abilities to feed back into Nezarec Sin, which gives us increased regeneration rate. Just literally keep feeding into that play loop. If you have a grenade and a Rift at the same time, grenade first, then Rift, all feeding into each other. We almost have our super already. Now, one thing I want to say, guys, is Nova Bomb's not really there right now in terms of damage for the bosses, but it is really, really used. I've been using it more as an ad clearing super now. So, whenever I have it, I let it rip. And as you can see, I already have my grenade back from that. Just from doing that. So we got so many kills with it. We're using it as ad clear. Using our heavy weapons as well. as primaries because double special's so good as well if you're running double special, which I highly recommend using. I very, very rare take double special off. We're constantly having volatile rounds from our grenades, so we're constantly making these void breaches from that, as well as the Child of the Old Gods. And that's basically how the build works, guys. You just need to make sure that you're constantly feeding into Nezarec Sins, which you are doing by using the void weapons. The only thing I say is it's always grenade first if you have a rift and a grenade together, because what's going to happen is the rift is always going to feed back into your grenade from having bomber on your class item. And that's how the build works. Pretty simple. Honestly, it's absolute an ad clearing monster. You can't die because of Devour. You have 100 resil. Everything's debuffed for you and your teammates as well, which is even better. Void Warlock will always be king. Now, between the subclass setup that we have here, Nezarec Sin, and the artifact mods that we have this season, Nezarec Sin is now 100% the best exotic to use when running the Void Warlock this season. Now, if you like this video, guys, make sure to drop a like down below, subscribe on your way out, and I'll see you in the next one, gamers.